What's up? It's Brian here at FX's Alien Earth, the wreckage experience, where fans can visit and brave a terrifying mission at this mysterious wreckage of the USCSS Maginot here at San Diego Comic-Con. For decades, the Alien franchise has terrified us with its claustrophobic tension, corporate paranoia, and iconic creature design. Now, Fargo and Legion series creator Noah Hawley is continuing that legacy with FX's Alien Earth, a bold new take that brings the beloved franchise to Earth for the first time. The new original series is set to premiere on August 12th on FX and Hulu. So we stopped by the FX's Alien Earth experience to not only visit the wreckage, but to catch up with Noah Hawley himself. Noah, it's very nice to meet you, man. So you become known for taking beloved IPs and doing something original with them. You did it with Fargo. What was sort of your guiding principle when approaching FX's Alien Earth, a franchise with such a massive and important legacy?
Well, so much of it, I think the experience of watching something is the feelings that it produces in you when you watch. And so what I always do is, you know, these movies are in my blood. I've seen them since I was a very young man. So it's not about going back and rewatching them, right? It's about thinking about the feelings that they gave me when I watched them, and then figuring out how to make you, the audience, feel the same thing while telling you a totally different story. And I think that's really the key for me, and the most rewarding thing is to have built a career on the sort of reinterpretation of old stories, but to have a reputation as an original storyteller.
What is it about Alien that connected with you initially that got you excited to work on this?
Well, there's a moment in the film where the creature is loose, and Sigourney goes into the communications room, and she is trying to figure out how to kill this creature, and she leans back, and Ian Holm's character is there, and it's revealed that he is a synthetic. He's an android. And that moment for me is everything, because if you think of the alien as the past, the sort of primordial we used to be food past, then Ian Holm is the future. He's the synthetic replacement, and both the past and the future are trying to kill us. And so humanity is really trapped between the past and the future, and that seemed like a really interesting place to tell a story.
I genuinely love that. That's awesome. What aspects of the original Alien film did you feel were sacred and untouchable? And where did you feel you had room to sort of expand and break the mold a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the design aesthetic, if you think about the three iconic science fiction brands, Star Wars, Star Trek, and Alien, you would never confuse one with the other aesthetically, right? Star Trek is, for lack of a better word, the Apple Store future, right? And Star Wars is the sort of swashbuckling, bubblegum and spit kind of hyperdrive situation. And then Alien Earth is rusty, and it's dripping, and there's chains, and it is steamy. And so I knew that I had to stay true to that. The challenge was that is the Weyland-Yutani aesthetic. And I'm focusing primarily on another corporation. So we have our Weyland-Yutani ship that's incorporated into the story, and then we have this Prodigy corporation. And the design challenge was, how do I make something that's obviously different, but feels like it exists in the same world? And then the other thing that obviously, you know, you can't mess with accidentally is the creature, every stage of the creature's life cycle. So, you know, I had some embellishments, some design shifts on a small picture level, but I knew I couldn't mess with the silhouette, and I knew that, you know, there's detail in there for the fans who care about it, but for everyone else, the monster is sacred.
Tell me a bit about sort of sustaining tension over the course of 8 hours rather than, you know, the length of a motion picture.
So an Alien movie is a 2-hour survival story, right? And that's not what a television show is.
Right.
And so, you know, in a survival story, the goal is for one or more humans to survive. The main question in the show is, can humanity survive? And in order to tell people a story that they really invest in emotionally, you have to give them characters that survive, right, for a long period of time, 10, 20, 50 episodes. And obviously the stakes are high, and there's going to be death, and there's going to be, all the stuff that you get in an Alien movie. But, the stakes go up when you realize that survival is key here across multiple hours. And the other element that really felt important to me was that core feeling of Alien, which is the discovery of the life cycle of this creature, that it goes from an egg, and then this face hugger comes out, and that's the worst thing you've ever contemplated, right? And you're like, I'm out now, but no, it's not over yet, right?
It's
now
like,
it's on your face.
It's gonna get worse.
And then it drops off, and you think, oh, thank God that's over. And then you're having a nice meal, and then the chest burster comes out, and you realize what the face hugger has done, and you think that there's a genetic revulsion that kicks in, right? And then it grows to be 10 feet tall, and then, James Cameron's film said, well, who's laying those eggs, right? But as a result, we all know that story, right? So that feeling that you got from that first movie isn't available to you unless you introduce new creatures where the audience doesn't know what they eat and how they reproduce, and we can play with that feeling again of discovery that plays to that core horror that we have.
I want to follow up on that because it does seem like we're going to see some other alien creatures, and I know you don't want to give them away, but what was it like sort of designing those and finding sort of new characters to play with in that world that aren't people?
Yeah, for me, it's always function over form. You end up in a design process with them, and you always want them to be as iconic as you can make them. But in the beginning, the question was, well, what are the elements? What do they do, right? As I said, we don't know how they eat or how they reproduce, or so at every step of the way, it's like, well, what's the worst version? You know what I mean? What's the part of it? And some of it, as coming out of Fargo, there's this duality of feeling, right, between comedy and horror, right? They're both the same. It's tension, release, right? And I always look at it like the Anton Chigurh, the haircut, right, as something that is funny, but not funny in the movie. It's just disturbing, right? And so I would know when I came up with a biological function of a creature, and I just started to laugh because it was so awful, right? That's how you know you've solved it.
That's awesome. How does setting this story on Earth sort of change the nature of fear of Alien? It feels like that has been, sort of almost literally contained to spaceships, derelict environments, different planets and stuff like that. Now it's here. What did that open up for you?
Well, we've never really seen these creatures in a natural environment, in an environment at all, right? I mean, it's either the prison or the spaceship or certainly in Cameron's film. I mean, they're technically in an environment, but it's the constructed station there. And so some of it for me was just the feeling that you get when you see these creatures. I mean, there's a great shot in the trailer, in a cave with this xenomorph, and the visceral power that has of feeling like, oh no, they're here. Right. Is such a great weapon to have, a tool to have in terms of the audience. And then the other thing, that I'm really eager to explore is, so within an ecosystem, right, you introduce an apex predator into an ecosystem, what happens? How does the environment shift? And how does the rest of the natural world adapt in some ways? So it's not necessarily a narrative element, but it is something that over time I really want to play with.
In a world full of sci-fi horror, what makes Alien Earth stand apart as not just part of a franchise, but as sort of a standalone piece of storytelling?
Well, there's many kinds of horror, right? And certainly the Aliens franchises plays with several of them. But I think one of the iconic moments in that franchise is Paul Reiser, releasing those two face huggers when Newt and Sigourney are asleep, and afterwards, they manage to escape, and she says, "I don't know which species is worse. At least they don't screw each other over for a percentage," right? And so there's this element of moral horror, right? The things that people do to each other that is really ripe for exploration in the show, and especially if the core concept is these children's minds in adult bodies, and the show becomes like, what kind of adults are they gonna become? And then as they look around and they're like, well, is this what a grown-up is supposed to do? The things that they're exposed to and they're asked to do. And then because they're synthetic, the question becomes, well, maybe we don't want to be human, right? And that's always the danger is, we're trained in Alien between Ian Holm and Michael Fassbender. We have deep suspicions about artificial characters, right? And the question here that opens it up is like, good or bad, we don't know. That's a journey that the show is going to take, and we're going to have to see.
That whole concept thematically was one of those things where I'm like, oh, they're going there, huh? Okay. Wow, that's bleak. Okay, I'm excited to see where this goes. Yeah, it's
well,
powerful.
What part of it was bleak? What makes it bleak?
Sort of transferring the conscious of a child into an adult body was one of those things where I was like, okay, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is. I mean, on some level, there's a huge act of hope there for these children, but certainly over time, you see the double-sided nature of it, right? It's like, yes, it's a hugely positive thing for these children, and yet, right? But it's horror, and so that's the joy of horror on some level is the feeling that creeps in, the dread that creeps in.
We touched on it in a little bit, but I want to sort of hone in specifically on the Xenomorph itself. To me, it's one of the most incredible designs in all of science fiction. And you talked a little bit about how the life cycle of it is one of the coolest parts, and it sort of shocks and surprises you at every level. But for the Xenomorph specifically, what makes that creature so awesome to you?
Well, I think part of it is that it does, on some level, mimic the human form. It is a bipedal or quadrupedal at times as it moves around, and it is born from us. So on some level, there is this genetic component where these are our children in a way, and. For me, there were elements that I was really fascinated to explore. The tail, which is always used, as a sort of scorpion tail, but there's a lot of creatures that have tails and use them in different ways. And I think one of the elements of it is the second mouth. There's something, because we used to be food, there's something about teeth and mouths and that's really horrifying, And when we went through the design process with Weta, you get the question, pointy teeth or flat teeth, and I was like, oh, flat teeth are so much worse. that feels like it would be painful versus the pointy teeth that are designed, and plus it gives it a more human smile, which feels more uncomfortable.
The second mouth was always like, wow, this can't get any worse, can it? Nope, surprise.
Yeah.
FX's Alien Earth, the wreckage experience here at San Diego Comic-Con hints at Prodigy Corp as a new player alongside longtime Alien Corporation Weyland-Yutani. What can you tell us about the world of FX's Alien Earth and the forces at play?
Well, there's a surprisingly little mythology in the 7 Alien movies about how humanity is organized, what Earth is like, etc. And so it gave me a lot of room to play with it. And all I tried to do is to think 1 or 2 steps ahead, right? There are billionaires in our world. Is it realistic that there would be trillionaires? Yes. Is it realistic that these corporations could achieve more power and ultimately replace the sort of elected government structure? Well, it could happen. Certainly, that they tend to err on the side of monopoly. So this idea that we were in this moment on Earth, like you had at the turn of the 19th century, you had Tesla and Edison and Westinghouse, and it was a battle over who would control electricity. here we are in this moment where you have these 5 corporations, and they're all trying to figure out what the next stage of evolution is for humanity. Is it neural implants, an enhancement to your biological form? Is it AI? Or is it this transhumanism of a human consciousness downloaded into a synthetic body? And so once those organizing principles were there, then it became a really exciting design challenge to think about, well, what are these corporations and what are they doing and how are they, how is the drama of their competition going to feed into the story?
Yeah, I loved how the pilot opens with, 5 companies run everything. And I was like, oh boy, I hope that never happens.
You and me both, brother.
Yep. Noah, thank you so much. I guess the only thing left for me to do is survive FX's Alien Earth experience here at Comic-Con. So yeah, let's go.
Welcome. This is the wreckage site. Your task is to help us secure the zone.
Should be easy enough. We just have to secure a wreckage zone. I do that all the time.
Single file in, eyes forward.
We're gonna go through the decontamination process right now, okay? So eyes on me. Okay, I think we're clear.
You'll be given your directive by your field boss shortly. Follow me.
Something much bigger. Okay, let's go that way, guys. Come on, go this way! Come on, pull that thing, it's loose! Come on, get to the lab! Now! This way! Oh, thank God! Have you brought any help? Any food, medicine, anything? We've been attacked! We need help! We need to get out of here now! It's not safe! Oh, God! Oh, God, I think we need to get out of here! Everybody get out! Oh, my God! Everyone out now! Now! We need to get out! That way! Go!
That was incredible. Going through the wreckage of a crashed ship, seeing face huggers on people, seeing xenomorphs pop out of the ceiling. I got sprayed with so many different liquids. That was one of the coolest things I've ever done at Comic-Con, and I'm just so giddy as an Alien fan. That was awesome. If you're just as excited as I am, then check out FX's Alien Earth, which is set to premiere on August 12th on FX and on Hulu. Let me know in the comments below what you're excited about to see in FX's Alien Earth. And for all things Comic-Con, stick with IGN.